Okay, we're recording. I'm sharing my screen. Here we go. And we're all set. Good afternoon. And welcome to the International Herbal Symposium, June 2021. Thank you for coming on to this virtual presentation. Sorry we couldn't be together in person. It would have been so wonderful. And I've been there so many times over the years. And I'm really looking forward to being together with all of you in the future. My name is Diane Miller. I'm an attorney with National Health Freedom Coalition and our lobbying organization, National Health Freedom Action. And today I'm going to give a presentation on how health freedom concepts and current policies impact herbalism. And I hope it's helpful for you with what I say. And at the end of the presentation, we will have the PowerPoint here attached so that if you have questions, you can get a hold of us and enjoy. So here we go. And I hope you have a good time listening. Freedom to heal. Freedom to heal is the basic concept that drives my everyday getting up in the morning. I and the team that I work with believe that all people have the freedom to heal each other, heal the world, heal as a practitioner, heal as a health seeker, and be in the conversation of what healing is all about, mind, body, and spirit. We believe that people should be able to follow their own healing journey in their life. However, I am an attorney, and attorneys really care about what the law says. We are a country founded on laws. We didn't want to be regulated by a monarch. We wanted the laws of the people to reflect how we were going to organize ourselves. So what the laws actually say and what we've decided on to have laws is really, really important. And so I think of laws as the voice of freedom in our country. And we believe that for the world too, that we should have basic principles that we all can abide by. In my freedom work, I think of, it's fairly simplistic in terms of just perceiving laws between state laws in the United States and federal laws in the United States. State laws, states have the right to protect the safety of their citizens. So anything like regulation of practitioners or healing arts would be under state law. But the federal law has the duty to regulate interstate commerce, things that go between the states. So we have a structure in the United States of the federal laws being the relationships between states and the states actually protecting the people. So if you're a healing practitioner, you would be under state laws. But if you were a salesperson of products, you would be under federal law, and some people are under both. So I always tell people, ask yourself, are you helping someone with a health problem? If you are, then you'd probably have some impact from state law. Are you selling and staying within what it says on the label of a product? Then you would really have to concern yourself with federal law. So let's begin with state law. Are you helping someone with a health problem? That was where I started my work in the health freedom community 25 years ago. The state of Minnesota, where I live, has a law that says anyone who offers or undertakes to prevent or to diagnose, correct, or treat by any means, methods, devices, or instrumentalities any disease, illness, pain, wound, fracture, infirmity, deformity, or defect of any person is practicing medicine. And if you don't have a medical license, you could be charged with a gross misdemeanor. And I started this work because I was representing a farmer who was giving colostrum to people for their immune system and was charged criminally. He had cured former Congressman Berkeley Bedell of Lyme disease. And he had helped so many people, and he was being charged. And I was not aware of this law. And when I saw the law, I just went, well, that would mean anybody giving out chicken noodle soup. Or I was raised on a farm. I didn't think what he was doing was wrong. And so I was very, very upset when I saw the breadth of this law. There were exceptions in it for people who were doing healing by prayer. And I found out later there were many exceptions in different states depending on their culture. For example, in Iowa, there's an exemption for people who give the spring water of their farm to others for healthcare purposes. Or in Massachusetts, there's an exemption for people who are clairvoyant in helping people. Can't imagine where that exemption came from. So there are a few exemptions, but not one for everyone. And there is no, I haven't found one for herbalism. So we went to the Minnesota legislature and learned how to lobby and passed a law that would protect all kinds of people in Minnesota that were practicing the healing arts. My primary herbalist and homeopaths I wanted to protect. So here are some of the things that we put into Minnesota law that are protected now, including herbology or herbalism, homeopathy, and I also put colostrum therapy because of the farmer. But acupressure, anthroposophy, aromatherapy, Ayurveda, craniosacral, many of these things that I wanted to make sure never, ever were charged with a criminal charge. So as I began working across the country, I've seen a lot of laws that are very similar to Minnesota. And so I'll give you some examples of these laws. One is the state of Washington, the practice of medicine. It's offered to undertake to diagnose, cure, advise, or prescribe for any human disease. Then it goes on, and at the end it says real or imaginary by any means or instrumentalities. That's so very, very broad. And in the state of Maine, we were contacted by a group of homeopaths that wanted to set up a clinic, but they were worried about the definition of medicine. So we checked that out. It was diagnosing, relieving in any degree, or curing, or professing, or attempting to diagnose, relieve, or cure a human disease, ailment, defect, or complaint. It's a very broad law. And in Maine, those homeopaths and their colleagues went forward, and we helped them. And within 6 months, they passed a law protecting all of these people in Maine from criminal charges. I'm so proud of them. So the state of Wisconsin has a very broad law. Here it is. Prescribe or advise for the same by any means or instrumentalities. So it is very common for these laws, and we want these laws to be broad because we want doctors to be able to do anything they need to help a person that is sick. But we also want exceptions for those who are not causing harm. And so Wisconsin is going forward right now. They passed their bill out of the Senate on the floor, and it's headed towards the Assembly, and we hope that they become the next state for a protection of these practices. That is true for Massachusetts too. They are the other state that is alive and well. They have a bill going forward to protect the practices. Their definition includes the purpose or reasonably foreseeable effect of which is to encourage the reliance of another person upon an individual's knowledge or skill in the maintenance of human health by the prevention, alleviation, or cure of disease, and involving or reasonably thought to involve an assumption of responsibility for other person's physical or mental well-being. So these very broad laws, we are working hard to create exemptions that matter, exemptions that say, as long as you avoid this list of prohibited acts, and as long as you give out a declaration to the consumer that, in fact, you are not licensed and who you are and what you have to offer. So that's Massachusetts' definition. And here's another way that laws get kind of complicated. So say that there's a naturopathic physician that actually went to naturopathic medical school, and they want to have licensure, but the traditional medical doctors don't want them to get licensed. But then they get licensed, and in their licensure act, they put the definition of naturopathic medicine instead of the definition of medicine. So the definition of naturopathic medicine in one state, Maryland, means the prevention, diagnosis, and treatment of human health conditions, injuries, and disease using only patient education, naturopathic therapies, and through therapeutic substances recognized by the Council of Naturopathic Medical Education, and the practice of material sciences of healing, including nutrition, phytotherapy, treatment by natural substances, and external applications. Now, this definition actually includes many of the things that unlicensed people do. So, in the sense that the definition of the practice of medicine is very broad, the definition of naturopathic medicine includes specifically a lot of the natural health things. And would we want to have a criminal charge for doing those? So someone could be charged for the practice of medicine, but they could also be charged for the practice of naturopathic medicine if they were not a licensed practitioner that went to medical school. So here's how that turned out. It ended up that they did not have any safe harbor exemptions for the unlicensed people in that statute. And it's a felony if you practice without a license. So Maryland is in dire need of a safe harbor bill for practice of naturopathic medicine and practice of medicine. Kansas Healing Arts, this one, and I found it in a couple of other states now, they actually have a law that says, recognizing that the practice of the healing arts is a privilege granted by legislative authority and is not a natural right of individuals. Now, how could someone possibly put that into law? We do not believe that's true. We think that the practice of the healing arts is a God-given part of our being human. It is not a privilege designated by a government. So I hope Kansas gets a safe harbor bill someday and deletes that sentence. So there are freedom solutions, and that's what we've been working on for 20 years. We really want to have a safe harbor practitioner exemption law for every state in the United States so that the herbalists and homeopaths and traditional naturopaths and energy healers and everybody can practice without worrying about these criminal charges. So here are some of the successes. That main group that I talked to you about, they passed the right to practice complementary and alternative health care. Congratulations, Maine. Here are some of the prohibited acts. If you practice as an unlicensed practitioner in Maine now, you can't perform surgery, set fractures, you can't administer radiation or do x-rays, you can't prescribe medications, drugs, or devices that are prescription only. You can't recommend discontinuance of medications or drugs or the use of devices prescribed by a licensed healthcare professional. That should be up to the licensed health professional that put them on that medication, or the person has to do that on their own. Performing chiropractic adjustments and acting in any way that suggests, advertises, or implies that the person is licensed as a healthcare by the state. So every state has every state that goes forward to find a safe harbor bill has a very different set of prohibited acts. It's interesting, and all of these are listed on our website. Nevada has a new law, a safe harbor law, and this is their list. Herbology is included in the Nevada law. There was a well-known herbalist, Jim Jenks, who was the chief person who moved this bill forward over a period of 10 years. And finally, the last 2 years, got a lobbyist and got it through. One thing about Nevada is that they have licensed homeopathic medical doctors there. So they did not want homeopathics in this list of protected issues because they demand that homeopaths be licensed medical doctors or working under them. New Mexico, it has a new law. I think it was 2006 maybe that this passed, and it has their whole list. They put in their curanderos and sobadoras, and this list reflects their culture of who they want protected in their culture. So right now, the Massachusetts and Wisconsin have bills moving forward for safe harbor. And they are right now Senate 1380 and House 2343 in Massachusetts. And Wisconsin is Senate Bill 98 and Assembly Bill 86. And possibly by the time that you're watching this, both of those would be passed. We're hoping by the time session is over that these would be passed. Congratulations on these two states. So, oh, and the other thing I just wanted to mention, one thing is that along with these two states that are in process now, a number of other legislators actually called us. And so North Dakota, we talked to a legislator and he put legislation in for a safe harbor. It didn't pass because it didn't have a consumer grassroots group behind it. But it was wonderful that a legislator themselves really believed in it, found it, heard about it, and wanted to pass it. That as well happened in the state of Connecticut. A legislator called us who himself is a Reiki master and wanted to pass a bill. And there's no consumer group there that we are working with. So if you know people in those states that want to pass a bill, you already have legislators available. And then we're now working with the state of Oregon because Oregon has a very bad bill that is actually in session right now, but the sponsor has agreed to table that bill so that we can have more discussions in the future about it and present our option to her. But that bill is a bill that would mandate registration for life coaches and people working with anyone who is trying to help people on a spiritual or energetic level. So the resistance to that bill actually brought a group together, and the group heard about the safe harbor practitioner exemption and wanted us to help. So we're helping them move a safe harbor exemption bill forward. Okay, so right now I'd like to just jump into just a special topic. It's usually not something I have in my presentations, but the concept of the pandemic and COVID is on everybody's mind. So I just wanted to comment briefly about what that means for health freedom and the right to speak and the right to practice. So people say, can herbalists promise a cure for COVID? And a lot of people really want to say, well, you know, we should be able to put out big notices saying take zinc or take vitamin D or, you know, what people should be doing to get rid of COVID or to prevent themselves from COVID. So the state laws would, for unlicensed practice, they don't allow you to promise a cure. And also, if you promise a cure, you could be charged with fraud too, because the conventional says that there is no cure. And then for federal law, the labeling health claims become an issue for products. So I just have a few statements to make about this. So just to let you know, and you probably already know this, what is happening federally. This is right off the FDA's website. They're issuing warning letters to firms for selling fraudulent products with claims to prevent, treat, mitigate, diagnose, or cure coronavirus disease. And, you know, that is the same language that's in the Medical Practice Acts. Claims to prevent, treat, mitigate, diagnose, or cure. And that's just what healing is. And you can't make a claim about that. So they're sending warning letters out. We are an organization that supports anybody making a truthful claim that does not misrepresent things, and that we don't think that the FDA should be able to ban truthful statements. And we also drafted a federal law and supported another federal law that said that, but it never passed. What is happening on the state level? Well, the states are complex because the state governor emergency powers are in place right now. So generally the regular laws of the states apply to everybody, but there are, in the state laws, there's constitutions, there's state statutes, there's administrative regulations, and there's also governor executive orders. And governor executive orders haven't been seen for a while unless there's an emergency. So people are now finding out what they are. So years ago in 2020, 2000, a lot of laws were passed to increase the ability of governors to act during emergencies. So usually they couldn't act to declare an executive order over the population unless it was a national disaster or a natural disaster or something that was urgent, like a tornado or military conflict. But they passed laws 20 years ago about bioterrorism and said that the governor could make emergency orders during health crisis. Well, that was new. That was just totally new law for the United States. And these legislatures went forward and passed these new laws, giving governors power about health issues. So, for example, in Minnesota, they passed a law that said the governor has general direction and control over emergency management. And then when they were doing that, they added bioterrorism. So when all of this happened and all these bioterrorism laws were being put in place in a lot of the states, the ACLU jumped in and said, although this kind of legislation may be needed, the current draft, unfortunately, is written in a way that doesn't adequately protect citizens against the misuse of tremendous powers that it would grant in an emergency. But really nothing was done about it. They just passed these laws. So we were in Minnesota and we saw this bill, and when it came forward, it said that if you were a doctor and you didn't do what the governor told you, you would go to jail. And so we resisted that. And we were worried as citizens that we would go to jail if we didn't get injected with things. So we passed this law in Minnesota 20 years ago, Refusal of Treatment. So it says, notwithstanding these laws, individuals have a fundamental right to refuse medical treatments, testing, physical or mental exams, vaccinations, participation in experimental procedures and protocols, collection of specimens, and preventive treatment programs. And we thought everybody else was doing that around the country. We were young lobbyists, and they weren't. We're the only state that passed a bill like this. So we have a right to refuse in Minnesota during emergencies. Now, California passed a law, and it said, upon being informed by a health officer of any contagious, infectious, or communicable disease, the department may take measures as are necessary to ascertain the nature of disease and prevent its spread. To that end, the department may, if it considers it proper, take possession or control of the body of any living person or the corpse of any deceased person. So as I'm reading these right to refuse laws, the potential of right to refuse laws, I'm seeing all these bioterrorism laws that went into effect in all the states. The governors have massive power in most states right now because the legislature 20 years ago or 30 years ago, whenever they did, passed laws that gave governors the power that they have right now. And these orders are taking effect and replacing actual laws for the time during the emergency. And that's why a lot of governors don't want to stop the emergency, because they lose their power then, and the legislature then has power. So I just want to say freedom to practice and freedom to speak the truth is really important, but it is a time of caution and it is a time of courage. And I really want people to be able to speak the truth, but I don't want them to get into trouble. And that is true for all of us. So depending on the laws of your state, it would be good to know those laws. So that's all for COVID right now. And we're going to move on to just how to pass a bill in your state. So many practitioners and citizens come to our organization saying, hey, we have a really bad law in our state and we really want to change it. Or what do you think of the laws in our state? Are they bad? And we can't really give advice in other states other than our own, where we're licensed as attorneys, but we can certainly educate you. And we do conference calls, we travel, we do presentations, we draft legislation once you tell us what you want, we testify at hearings. And so oftentimes when we're working with a group that maybe they get 4 or 5 people together, we will work with them every week for a year. Some states we've been working for 4, 5, 6 years. So we're committed to helping you as you walk through that process of making sure that your laws reflect what you want them to say. So on our website, we have two organizations, the educational organization that does the Health Freedom Congress, but we also have a lobbying organization, and we have two full-time attorneys, myself and Ann Gillum. And we put out action alerts for different states. Like if we see a bill that we really think needs to move, or if we're working with that organization to move a bill, we will put out an action alert. So this is what our website looks like. It's just a screenshot of what it might look like. And you can go to that action alert section on the NHFA website. You can click on your state and it'll have what's the problem. It'll have a take action button. And if you click it, you can just put in your zip code. It'll automatically call up a letter that you can send to your legislators, and you can reform the letter or edit it if you want, or you can send that one. You just click the button. As long as you put in your address, then your correct legislator will come up on the screen and you send them the letter automatically. So it's a very simple, easy software that helps you be directly in touch with your legislators when a bill is coming up. So here's where the safe harbor, our goal to get all 50 states is at right now. Oklahoma and Idaho were historically, they had small exemptions in their statutes, so we have included them. And then Minnesota was the first larger one. Minnesota, Rhode Island, California, etc. And Maine was the last one. So we're hoping that 2 more go forward this year of 2021. So here's my map of, it's my personal map of how I keep things straight in my head because we're working with so many groups. And this is my map that's going on right now. The red are ones that we're really in touch with this legislature this year. We're working with Oregon. We've slowed down the bill in North Dakota. We're working, and a legislator has one in Iowa. Wisconsin's moving, Massachusetts moving, and Connecticut has one live. So these are, and if you're green on this map, you've already passed some type of legislation. If you're dark blue, you've already introduced safe harbor legislation at some point in time, but it's not moving, it didn't pass, or there's not a group there that's moving it right now. And then if you're pink, you're considering it. We've heard from you. And Utah and Florida, I put light blue because they're very interested right now and want to work with us weekly. So here's a picture of us in Wisconsin when we're over there helping them lobby, and Massachusetts leaders. They got together, the grassroots leaders there, and went to their legislature and had a tour. Here's the 2 homeopaths in Maine. They put a table up right in the rotunda of their capital, and they did a great job of promoting their organization. Here's a picture of the lobbyist on the left-hand side, and then Jim Jenks on the right-hand side for Nevada when they passed their bill. So we work with states, and sometimes it's not just about safe harbor, it's other issues that are going on. So here's a list of some of the issues that come up with state groups: practitioner rights, vaccine exemption rights. They're a very hot item right now. Bodily autonomy, right to refuse. We're just launching that national campaign right now. Organic food and sovereignty. The Organic Consumers Association is doing great work in that area, and we try to promote their work. Geoengineering, microwave radiation, glyphosates, regenerative agriculture. There are so many issues that are related to health right now that are so important for all of us. So we encourage people to choose one that they're very interested in or 2, and really become an active participant in them. So moving on to federal activism. I said that federal issues are mostly commerce. Let me give you just some basic concepts in this section of the presentation about federal issues as they relate to alternative health. So the dietary supplements, which an herb is, they really have to watch very closely about health claims. They also have to watch about good manufacturing practices if you're a manufacturer, and that's a whole nother topic. And I believe that the International Herbal Symposium I went to it, a wonderful presentation on the manufacturing laws and regulations for dietary supplements, which is an excellent presentation and complex. So dietary supplements have health claim issues and manufacturing issues. Homeopathic remedies, there's a lot out about homeopathic remedies now because of the draft guidance. We'll talk about that a little bit. The emergency orders, which we just covered. Geoengineering is an issue regulating the climate, and the EMFs, the satellites, the antennas that are going up in residential areas. Lots of things happening federally. So just for start, simplistic, the term drug. What does it mean? The definition of drug. And so here we have part B, articles intended for use in the diagnosis, cure, mitigation, treatment, or prevention of disease in man or other animals. I mean, have you heard those words before? It's the same as the definition of medicine. Anything you use to prevent, cure, treat, or prevent disease. So that would mean if you used water, it would become a drug. And that really was true until 1984. So then there's also articles intended to affect the structure or function of the body. So you'll see that there's just this little quotation or little parentheses around other than food, articles other than food in part C. Well, that other than food was put in there in 1984 by activists, in 1994, by activists that were trying to get food out of food items, even if they were used for health issues, out of the drug definition. So the 1994 drug definition was revised, and those three little words were put in there, other than food. And that really changed our country and made our country one of the biggest countries for the dietary supplement industry. So that other than food had a lot of other things attached to it in the bill that passed. So this was the definition of a food dietary supplement that was passed in 1994. It's a dietary supplement is a vitamin, a mineral, an herb, or other botanical, an amino acid, a dietary supplement for use by man to supplement the diet. So that whole law that was passed about developing a definition for dietary supplements, bringing some of the things that were used for health purposes in under the food regulation was a very big shift in our country. So it includes herbs. Notice it does not include homeopathic remedies. So right now, dietary supplements are regulated as foods, not drugs. They're generally regarded as safe unless they're proven otherwise. So the burden of proof is on the government as opposed to being on you like it is for a drug. If it's a drug, you have the responsibility to prove it's safe before it goes on the market. If it's a food, they have the responsibility to prove that it's unsafe before they take it off the market. So let's move to homeopathic remedies. Homeopathic remedies are regulated as drugs. And that happened because when the drug definition was promoted, there was a senator who was a homeopath and he wanted homeopathic remedies to be drugs. So now it says the same drug definition, articles recognized in the official United States Pharmacopoeia, official homeopathic pharmacopoeia of the United States, or official national formulary or any supplement to any of them. So homeopathic remedies are specifically drugs, and that has been good because they have that status and they can make health claims, which drugs can make health claims, and dietary supplements can't make health claims unless they're approved. But it also is bad because they're generally regarded as safe by us, but not by the government. So this is what the government thinks about homeopathic remedies under the FDA's website. Under the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act, homeopathic products are subject to the same requirements related to approval, adulteration, and misbranding as other drug products. There are currently no homeopathic products approved by FDA. So literally, they view all homeopathic remedies to be unapproved drugs, so they can go after any of them. But since that was such a dilemma, they had the homeopathic community in 1988 negotiated with them to put out a guidance document ours to say, are you really going to go after all of us? I mean, aren't there some people that you won't go after? So they did. They put a compliance policy guide together called 400-400. And this policy document really isn't law. It's just a notice from the government to say, if you do these things, we probably won't come after you. We could, but we probably won't. So it's conditions under which homeopathic drugs may be marketed. That was the name of their policy guide out of 1988. So even though there was this definition of drug, they put out this policy guidance. They could have put out a formal rulemaking, but they didn't. They just did a policy guidance. So then what happened was in 2017, they decided they wanted to repeal 400-400 and treat homeopathic remedies under the risk assessment like drugs. And everybody was up in arms. Oh my gosh, what are you thinking? No, don't repeal 400-400. We really need it for protecting us. We don't want our homeopathic remedies to be shut down. So they put out this draft guidance saying they were going to repeal 400-400 and they were going to do the risk assessment. And they asked for comments. So everybody gave them comments. So in October 2019, they listened to the comments and they repealed 400-400 and they put out a second draft guidance thinking it would be better. In our opinion, it is a worse guidance than the first one. So now not only do we not have 400-400, we have a very bad second draft guidance. Our organization is not supportive of doing another draft guidance. We want the law changed, just like we changed it for the practice of medicine. We want the law changed so that homeopathic remedies are considered generally regarded as safe and do not require the drug risk assessment, as long as they're manufactured properly by the Homeopathic Pharmacopoeia's good manufacturing standards. So that's our position on this. We would like to see that changed, the law changed. And we have drafted a law accordingly. It's available. We've been sharing it with the community. So, and I just checked, there's no new final revised guidance document, so it's just a draft guidance at this point in time. And so no draft guidance has been approved for homeopathic remedies, so they're just out there. So this is from the FDA website. When people say, is FDA going to remove homeopathic products? FDA's top concern is patient safety. When the draft guidance is finalized, it will specify the categories of products the agency intends to prioritize for enforcement. In the interim, before the draft guidance is finalized, FDA intends to apply its general approach to prioritizing risk-based regulatory and enforcement actions. So basically, the homeopathic remedies, there are the concept of homeopathic remedies, they're highly diluted, but the raw materials often are very toxic. And conventional thinking says, oh, that's a toxic substance, therefore we need it off the market, period. But there's less toxic substance in most of those remedies than there would be in the general environment because they're so diluted. So you can't have it both ways, is our opinion. You can't say that they're dangerous because there's something toxic, but there's nothing in it because they're so diluted and they're fraudulent. And so this whole arena has to be changed, and hopefully someday they'll just be considered generally regarded as safe and the government will let go of that control. But we have to do the work to make that happen. So in all of these areas, I always ask people, who do you think is representing you? Like in Oregon, who do you think is representing you? If there's a law that's going forward that's going to take away your free right to be a life coach, or, anyway. So I encourage people to be at the table in some form or other. And if you're watching this, you already are. You're very committed herbalist who is interested in hearing at least about the laws uh, and the impact of laws on our country. This is our information for National Health Freedom Action. It's our lobbying organization, and it's the organization that has the action alerts on the website. This is the information for our coalition, our educational organization. We do a lot of educating and presentations, and we sponsor and co-host the United States Health Freedom Congress, which there are voting members. United Plant Savers is one of them. We're delighted that they have asked us to join them on this virtual presentation. Our last Congress was in June of 2018, and these are just amazing leaders that believe in freedom, they believe in health. They're really movers and shakers that are trying to make a difference in the world. So we thank all of you for your support. And what we really wanted in the United States Health Freedom Congress is for people in different arenas to meet each other and to learn the impact of how health is being impacted on many different levels, whether it's because of child protection, or it's because of raw milk, or it's because of vaccine safety, or it's because of, the right to refuse COVID, or it's organic consumers. All of these different organizations that have special missions are are so important, and knowing each other and how that interfaces is energizing and so important for all of us to really help the planet heal and move forward in a positive manner. To end up, I would like to share with you principles of health freedom. I over the years drafted these principles on, gradually. When I came up confronted by particular issues throughout, and there's 8 principles that I came up with. Then we took them to the United States Health Congress, and they have endorsed them, and they will be in the publication of a book that I'm writing right now about health freedom. So I'm going to share them with you because I think that they're basic principles that I hope that our planet can abide by as you all abide by as we go forward as a group. So the first principle is the fundamental right of self-determination to be let alone to survive on your own terms and in your own manner. And I think the political situation right now of a pandemic and executive orders and they're believing that people would give up some of their personal rights in order to accommodate the whole. That conversation is really important because we do have a fundamental right to be let alone, not to be injected if we don't want to, not to do things that will affect our health that we think will affect our own health negatively, to be let alone. The principle number 2 is we want to be able to take actions that secure our own health. Like, are we free to act in a way, like can we choose the practitioner of our own choosing, or do we have to go with one thing or the other? To be able to act on our own behalf. And I often think about this. A person that goes into a conventional system, they're free to go into that system, but there may be 99 other things that they could do instead of that. So in effect, their options are not, their freedom is not really able to be utilized because their options aren't there to choose from. And I think that goes for the freedom to access who and what we want. If you get rid of 9 out of the 10 options, do you really have freedom? Number 4 is the responsibility to do no harm. And I think that many natural health people really resist the kinds of iatrogenic harm that is happening in the conventional system, and the use of toxic substances to gain health as opposed to a more natural approach. We just support if people want to do something that has high risk, that they know everything about it, but that the high risk things are the least restrictive harm, the least harm possible. Number 5 is to tolerate diverse options in health, healing, and survival. So oftentimes, like, a person will go to their doctor, they'll say, this is what I want to do, and they'll be shamed and said, if you do that, I'm not going to have you as my doctor, or they look down upon another option outside of that basic system. That tolerance for diverse options in health, even within family members, where somebody wants to use an herb, another person wants to use a homeopathic remedy, another wants to use a vaccine, whatever it is, this tolerance is a very big freedom discussion, and really needs attention and kindness during it. Principle number 6, the duty of corporations and institutions to be trustworthy. And, I agree, they need to be trustworthy and they need to support health freedom principles. So we put together principle number 7, in light of the special legal nature of corporations and their ability to impact the human family. We put together 5 different things that we would like from a corporation. So number 1 is that they honor and preserve the sovereign nature of individuals, the sovereignty of the United States, and avoid any negative impact on the sovereignty of other nation states. So really respecting the autonomy. Honor and preserve American financial and cultural diversity and multicultural systems. And you know that obviously corporations that have financially gone into countries and shifted or negatively impacted their financial and cultural diversity, it's been very damaging. 3 is avoid creating monopolies and using those monopolies for ownership and dominating cultures. Number 4 is avoiding dominant control of the natural resources. So taking up all of the natural resources and destroying natural resources, so the actual natural resources of the planet. And number 5 is my favorite, and I'll just read it. Avoid promotion of products, protocols, policies, regulations, or laws that would encourage unlimited dependence on corporations and institutions, or that would discourage, prohibit, or otherwise negatively impact the ability or will of humans and local human communities to survive and prosper without the corporation or institution. So that unlimited dependence that we have all experienced is part of our thing that we're digging ourselves out of. And it is hard because our system is set up around the corporate structures. And number 8 is the duty of government. And the duty of government is to protect our health freedoms, to make no law or public policy abridging health freedoms or its fundamental principles. So to end with, and it's been wonderful to be with you today, and I appreciate your time, and I hope that you find a great freedom group to join in. Laws and customs must be carefully reviewed, revised, and even repealed if necessary, and new laws created to reflect the development, evolution, and spiritual maturation of a people. Be in the freedom conversation. So thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing you in 2022 at the International Herbal Symposium. Love you. Okay, bye.